Hi, everybody. How are you? This is Julie Budd, and you're listening to TV Confidential.
Hi, I'm Patty Russell, and this is my sister Sam.
Patty just moved in with me.
When I lived in Oregon with her aunt and uncle, I'd write a letter when I needed sisterly advice.
You wearing glitter eyeshadow to school?
Now I get it in person.
Bet you miss the days when you could just tear up those letters, huh?
Everything starts like a knock at the door. You don't know what it is, but you know who it's for. That's the way we began. There's no decide. Oh, something so good, just be right, be right.
Ed Robertson along with Tony Figueroa and Donna Allen as we bring you This Week in TV History. And Tony's segment, as always, is brought to us by our friends at Story Salon, Southern California's longest-running, regularly performing live storytelling ensemble shows every Wednesday here in Southern California. For more information on Story Salon, go to storysalon.com. What do you have for us tonight?
All right, we're going to start on a very serious and sad note. It was July 19th, 1989, when the young actress Rebecca Schaeffer, at the age of 21, was murdered in front of her house by a gentleman named Robert John Bardo. And he was very mentally unstable. Rebecca was, like I said, 21 and very young life, but I think the legacy of her, fortunately and unfortunately, is what happened and legislation that followed after this. Stalking was an issue that was being addressed a lot in Hollywood at the time. Sharon Gless had a really bad stalking situation. Mm-hmm. Michael J. Fox had a serious stalking problem with one individual that was constantly sending letters. And this is when he was at a point in his career where Family Ties was coming to an end, and he was doing Back to the Future Part 2 simultaneously, almost overlapping. And he had some serious problems. In New York or in Connecticut, David Letterman had somebody who kept breaking in. And the laws needed to be changed, updated. But I think there is, those of us who live in Hollywood and have been connected to the industry, there is a definite change since before what happened with Rebecca Schaeffer and since.
Rebecca Schaeffer had been an actress. I mean, she'd had a nice career, but I think she came to national attention. It was my sister Sam. She was Pam Dauber's sister. Right. And I think her murder was a wake-up call not just to the industry but the rest of the country, bringing the stalking problem. I think I was living in Chicago at the time, and most people thought, oh, a fan? Well, aren't fans nice? I mean, wouldn't a fan want to see or embrace? I mean, I think this was the first time that a lot of people realized this wasn't so funny or cute.
Yeah. Well, at the time, Michael J. Fox had a stalker who sent like 1,500 letters. She sent letters every day.
Right.
Just over and over and over again, and people got alerted. Like I said, Sharon Gless had some serious problems at that time, but people were not fully taking it. It was perceived as, well, that's just the price of fame.
Yeah, but still, I mean, look, the word fan is short for fanatic, and so
which people forget. Yeah.
Which people forget, but still, even so, look, I mean, for the most part, I mean, and we know this because I mean, I've worked fan conventions both for Star Trek and also for science fiction shows in general, and as well as walking around at some of the autograph shows down here. Yes, for the most part, fans seem to respect the sort of unstated distance between them and the need for privacy on the celebrity's part, but still, every now and then you've got cases where people these people just have no sense of reality. It's distorted.
Which happens if you're a soap opera villain and you're in the frozen food section. Mm-hmm. Somebody might walk up to you, slap you in the face, and say, "This is for Jessica," or right. and have that disconnect.
Right, or you going further back, Barry Morse told me that when he played Lieutenant Gerard in The Fugitive, little old ladies would take umbrellas and beat him, and stop being so mean to David Jansen. But they didn't. That's as far as it went.
That's as far as it goes. Yeah, people used to hop the fence of the mansion, which was the Clampett's mansion on the Beverly Hillbillies, right, wanting to meet Jed and asking him for money. And the people who actually lived in that house had to invest a huge amount of money to fortify that particular residence.
The owners of the Brady Bunch house had to change the appearance, the facade of their house to keep fans away.
Yeah.
Do you think it's gotten worse in recent years because of the internet, or is it just a different time?
I think it still exists, but it's very different. I mean, Rebecca Schaeffer's murderer found her through records at the DMV.
Okay.
Whereas actually pretty simple. It was a matter of public record. Just about anybody could get them. Now you cannot. But the problems are still happening. I mean, recently, I believe Paris Hilton had another situation.
Yeah.
And I don't think it helps that when Paris Hilton, buys a new dog, the press is in front of her house waiting to get the first person to get the shot of Paris Hilton and her new dog, or when Paris Hilton went to jail. And so now people have a view of her house, the street. The reporters say, hey, we're on such and such street at this time, and all you do is exacerbate the problem.
Well, but see, there have always been paparazzi to some extent. I mean, it just seems in the post-cable, post-internet age, it just seems they're more. It just seems as though they're more omnipresent, and the privacy issues. I mean, SARS seems to have more. It's more of a challenge for a celebrity to maintain some sense of privacy and to protect themselves so that you don't have a Rebecca Schaeffer extreme situation.
Now, I think a lot of them have invested more money in their own protection, but you do have now we have new stalking laws. We had members of the Screen Actors Guild when President Richard Mazer was the head of that guild, and they went to Washington. And I remember Paul Reiser testified and Michael J. Fox testified, and there are stalking laws that are on the books, and I think we owe a lot of that to Rebecca Schaeffer. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think there still is that public perception. Well, that's the price of fame, and
well, but that's kind of that's a callous perception. And the price of fame is that you should be killed by one of your stalkers. That's not. No.
But also remember today that I think people, if they want to be, could be more accessible. I mean, when we were growing up, I was growing up in the Midwest. You saw people on TV. I never expected to see them in life. I never even sent away for an autographed picture. I mean, these were people who were on TV. That's where they belonged. I would never see them. Now celebrities are tweeting. You go to my webpage. You can contact me in all sorts of ways, whether you're contacting them or one of many, many assistants or interns. I mean, people never, but to keep up the perception, I'm there for my fans. And the price that many of them paid, increased security and bodyguards. Yeah. Granted, living in Hollywood, you see people at the grocery store all the time. I mean, I think you create your environment.
Yeah, and I mean, we see people at the grocery store all the time, or at the Starbucks, or at these places, and nobody gives them
at the gym, at the nail salon.
Right. Yeah, nobody gives them a
They're just people who work in Los Angeles.
But, you do have, and I guess the psychology is also, these people come into your homes, and they're your friends, and they're part of your family. So if somebody has an opportunity to meet somebody like that they're very comfortable just going up to them and engaging them. And for the actor, sometimes that could be a very frightening proposition.
Well, look, there are limits. I mean, we've heard the story. Paul Newman wouldn't sign autographs because, the bottom line was when someone walked up to him when he was at a urinal. I mean, that's sort of, this far, no farther. And again, it's just my experience, not just directly through contact, but just stories that people have told us on this program and in other venues, is that common sense. Most celebrities, understand there's sort of an obligation to interact with their fans, and so long as there's sort of a common sense, if you meet them in a restaurant, that's fine. Just don't walk, but give them their space and let them have their meal, or let them really do their business. If you should bump into them in the restroom or stuff like that. But if it's a situation where you're waiting for your bags at the airport terminal, or if you're standing in line at the grocery store, okay, you're waiting. Okay, that's sort of a natural interaction, that's okay.
And many of them, their rule is, if I have kids, my kids with me, leave me alone.
Right.
Not while I'm with the kids. This is our time. And there are people who have unfortunately gone through extraordinary measures. So a day at Disneyland, for example, is a huge strategic production just so they could get on a few rides and have that parenting time.
I mean, look, there's a certain bubble when you reach a certain level of fame, and I mean, to me, it is simple in the sense that the price of fame is lack of anonymity, and so, but with that lack of anonymity, that doesn't mean that your rights or your privacy should be completely exhausted.
Yeah. But now at least there are laws. There are things that do have that protection involved, and the crime is a little different than it would be that it was prior to the Rebecca Schaeffer situation. But I think the atmosphere in Hollywood has definitely changed. I mean, this was a definite wake-up call. You would now... I remember certain sitcoms now have metal detectors when you go inside, if you're part of the studio audience. That never existed before. When I was a kid, I could run over to the Paramount lot, and the security guard would say, "Yeah, you want to go play around in this area?" Yeah. Nobody thought twice about it. Yeah. It was not that unusual, but now, I mean, you notice that there is a definite change in how it operates.
Yeah, and with that in mind, there's an obligation for people such as us with the type of program that we do when we get celebrities to do our show. I mean, there's sort of a trust situation that we're not going to broadcast their phone number or their private email address across the because and that's there are certain things that are just understood. That's just common sense, and we like to think that we respect those boundaries, and again, I like to think that most fans, you're talking about your experience, Donna, growing up in the Midwest. I mean, you enjoy them, but you wouldn't think of, I'm going to pick up the phone and call them.
Yeah.
Oh, hardly.
Yeah.
There are people that probably call Hollywood Information. And
Now, growing up, I didn't even want to go see the local kids show because Uncle Al belonged on television, and seeing him in person, even as a small child, I knew would do something, alter my reality of what this was. He belonged on television. That was fine. I didn't need to see him in person.
June 25th, 2009. We may have covered this in the past, the death of Michael Jackson.
We have covered this.
We have, yes. But, we lost him, and I think we have dedicated more conversation as to how it was covered versus how he died.
Well, to me, and again, this is the relevant point. To me, the how it was covered is significant insofar as it was TMZ that broke the story. And it is significant because that, just as the O.J. trial validated the National Enquirer as a news source, the death of Michael Jackson validated TMZ as a news source. And say what you will about TMZ, they were first, and
they were right.
So, although having said that, and this probably says a lot about me, if I read an obit and the first source is TMZ, I will wait till I find a second source before I post it on our Facebook page.
Unfortunately, I think a lot of the more reputable or mainstream outlets now are just saying, according to TMZ, so they have that disclaimer.
Yes, thank you, I'm now reputable.
But going back...
TMZ... I've never known them to be wrong.
No, that's
the thing.
That is true.
That is the opposite edge of the sword. They are a lot of things. There's a lot of adjectives that come to mind, none of them flattering.
But they're usually right.
They're usually right. How they get the information is questionable, and I'm a little surprised that in the past 5 years there has not been more looking into that. I would hate to think that if I went to a hospital that some orderly is taking notes and selling out, or whatever the circumstances are.
Or has a cell phone.
Has a cell phone and could...
Well, just as a recent example, wasn't, I believe, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong, I believe the first source to report the Donald Sterling controversy was TMZ.
Yeah.
Correct.
And you mentioned the Inquirer. The Inquirer covered the John Belushi story.
Yeah.
And the Inquirer also turned over all of their information to the authorities.
Yeah.
Which is something I would say most journalistic outlets would never do that. Reporters have gone to jail because they are protecting sources. That's what I associate journalism with, that if you wanted to be that deep throat character, let's say, that your anonymity would be protected. That there was a certain understanding that these reporters would go to their grave not saying who you are. Maybe that integrity is inflated. Maybe it's become more things of legend. But, when the Inquirer basically did an interview with Kathy Evelyn Smith, she went off to Canada and they gave everything to the LAPD to cover that. And then it led to an extradition. They were the story.
Yeah.
They were not covering the story. They became the story.
So the National Enquirer is to print media what TMZ is currently to
I think
new
you can
media and television.
I think you can make that case.
Yeah. And, when the National Enquirer, like I said, became the story, I don't think the journalist should become the story.
I don't think they became the story in OJ.
No, not in OJ.
And that's my point, because the OJ case established them as a credible news source, and again we looked at the Inquirer differently after that, just as we look at TMZ differently after
and since we're just kind of throwing in a timeline, let's throw in Matt Drudge and Monica Lewinsky.
Drudge is usually first, and Drudge is usually right.
Yeah, but again, it was according to Matt Drudge, but Matt Drudge became part of the story,
right? But even if you qualify something by saying according to, I think you're being responsible anyway.
Yeah, well,
it shows that this is where you got it.
When you're doing television, you do not have the benefit of hindsight, or it's happening now.
Yeah, if you're doing live breaking television.
Yeah, and we all remember that morning of September 11th. We were hearing all sorts of things happening in New York that weren't really happening. Car bombs going off, things like, and it was like going into an earpiece, and Matt Lauer or Katie Couric, and it was coming out of their mouth because that's the information, that's what the reports were coming in. But at the end, you sorted out, this didn't happen, this happened, but you make allowances for that. When you have, like the Drudges and all that, there seems to be just a different dynamic, that kind of a precursor to the TMZ. Yeah, they're not wrong, but how they get the information, what was done, that's always in question. And I know, and we talked about this again, being, employed by someone. Employers have policies about not talking to media. If you work for a big enough company where it could have media attention, when you get hired, you don't talk to the media. We have people that talk to the media for you. If you communicate to the media, you will be fired. If you appear in the media and present our company in a negative light, you will be fired. And the fact that TMZ apparently, allegedly, however you want to phrase it, could have an orderly or somebody in the gift shop or a candy striper, that they could contact, to feed them the information. Or if the person can contact them. This is what I have video. How much?
Yeah.
And the days of the Inquirer, if you just happened to be at the right place at the right time and had a camera in your hand and was able to snap a shot and get it to 1 hour photo, if you were lucky to have that, getting that photo to the Inquirer there was some length of time. It wasn't so immediate.
Right.
If it was something that you could give to the L.A. Times, that would be a little different. But to get it to the Inquirer, a weekly, now it's instantaneous, and it's almost like we're going backwards. You could cover something on your cell phone, send it to a channel, and it's almost like William Randolph Hearst. You give me the photo, we'll write the story, and it's almost like we're going backwards. But yeah, the fact that we haven't progressed, or it's just gotten worse since the Michael Jackson. Okay.
Childhoftelevision.blogspot.com, childhoftelevision.blogspot.com, also storysalon.com. Donna's 4-part novel series is now complete.
Yes, it is. The last book, Fall Again Reunion, was published a few months ago. You'll see where the story finally ends.
And to find out how the story begins and end, go to fallagainseries.com. Tony and Donna, we'll see you both next time.
Next time.
We'll continue our DVD report with Greg Ehrbar next on TV Confidential.
Become an advertiser or underwriter of TV Confidential and let our brand help promote your brand. To find out more, go to televisionconfidential.com/advertise.
Ed Robertson, along with her friend Donna Allen Figueroa, who I understand has a new book out.
Yes, it's entitled Fall Again Beginnings. It's the first part of a 4-part contemporary romantic series set against the background of working actors.
Something that you know a thing or two
well,
about.
You write what you know, and I have been working in the business for several years.
It is not necessarily autobiographical, but it's based on...
Sure, many of the experiences that the actors in my book have, many have happened to me, many have happened to friends of mine. It's not, if you're looking for Valley of the Dolls, it's not, it's grounded in reality.
It is grounded in reality, and it's the first in a series.
Yes.
Called the Fall Again series.
Fall Again.
Which is available as a paperback as well as an ebook and in Kindle at fallagainseries.com.
Hi, my name is Lily. My mom and dad used to fight about money all the time. Then one day, I heard them talking about this guy, some uncle I never knew, called Uncle Sam. Well, they say this Uncle Sam guy wanted them to pay him like $1 gazillion, and they didn't have $1 gazillion. So they called this company they heard on the radio called the Tax Doctor. And the Tax Doctor worked with Uncle Sam's people. I think they're called the IRS. And they were able to work it out so my mom and dad didn't have to pay Uncle Sam very much money at all. So now mom and dad are happy, and I'm happy too. Thanks, Tax Doctor.
If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS or state, call now and pay less.
800-649-0142. 800-649-0142. That's 800-649-0142.
Hi, this is Titus Welliver. You're listening to TV Confidential.
Are payday loans ruining your life? Do you want control over your money again? If you have 2 or more payday loan cash advances, listen closely. You may be eligible for a program payday loan companies don't want you to know about. A program that may help get aggressive and unfair payday loan companies out of your bank account and get you back on track to financial freedom. Payday loan companies may trap you into paying outrageously high interest rates, and they take way too much of your hard-earned money every week. We understand their tactics and know how to keep them off your back. We'll fight hard to help you regain control of your money. If you have 2 or more payday loan cash advances, call right now for a free consultation.
800-488-5880. 800-488-5880. 800-488-5880. That's 800-488-5880.